because of that. Let me start off by asking this. Who in here has contacted their state representative or senator before? Okay, so about half the room. Okay, let me ask this. Does anyone have, besides me, a good relationship with their state legislator, with their state representative or senator? Does anyone know them fairly well? Okay. So,
us know them, not them know us.
Either way.
Either way.
You got 3? Okay, very good. So, 4, okay. Wait, I'm here. Oh, Chris, okay. I was going to say for Scotty, yeah.
You and Chris.
Yeah.
You're my representatives, I know you do.
We all went to college together. So, basically, we're now at a stage where, especially if you know your state senator, and even if it's your state assembly person, so we have 3 people who raise their hand to that. It's really key that you get on them, explain to them the importance, and let me just give a little context. I'm still learning a ton, and I'm very new to this, and although it's already been over, it's like a year and a half we've been working on this, and I've been kind of fully engaged, I'm way behind anyone else in this room. I'm still learning a lot about it. But I'm worlds ahead of any of my colleagues, and that's an issue, because the fact that they don't know about this means they also don't know how important it is. And that's why we need folks like you, especially if you have a personal relationship, to educate your legislators and let them know how important this is. And that's something that you can do even if you don't have a personal relationship, but it's especially so if you do. And we need to find sponsors and people who are willing to kind of take the initiative on this, which is why I've been going around. I contacted 4 of the most friendly Republicans. I figured out this bill today and this last week. So by Friday I'll hear back, I think, from everyone, and we'll see if we can get some people to help me out navigating this, because the Dems are in such a deep minority. You usually have to get a Republican that's willing to kind of get some credit and whatever, but it's good. It's how the process works, and it's fine. So I think we'll have some good news on that soon. But really what's needed is everyone to regularly follow up with their representatives and let them know how important this is and educate them. So who here is going to write their representatives tonight? Yeah, who's going to go home, get on your computer? No? Alright, tomorrow?
Weekend.
Well, let me say this. The first time you write them, the first time you email them, is the sooner you can do it again. And there's no limit. And remember, who do your representatives work for? They work for you. That's right. And who do your senators work for? They work for you. You pay their money, you elect them, you're in charge. So you got to take the reins and let them know this is a priority, and this is something that you want to see them show their worth for you. So let me ask again, who's going to contact the representative, and let's say by the end of the next 3 days, in 3 days who'll contact? Everyone? What about this guy? You got the guy in the blue back there? Alright, I couldn't see your hand. Very good. Alright, is there anyone who's not going to? Peer pressure. Everyone's good? Okay. And again, you can do it if you're doing it already. This side of the room is already doing it. You can do it twice a month. And if you haven't done it, you can start doing it every month.
You
And
can
if you're
set
doing
it
it,
up to set through your email. Like every time you open your email, it'll send.
that's right. Absolutely. Take a lesson. That's right.
That's why I know them. They may not know me.
Exactly. That's a good model. That's exactly right. And not only that, but you can get creative with it. For a lot of the deaf community that I've been meeting with and talking with, there's the idea. Well, I'd rather what if we could send in a video, and caption it. Absolutely 100%. Or what if you wanted to make phone call? All of it's good. You can contact whatever you want, but contact early and often. And if you're not doing it all, start doing it once a month. If you're doing it once a month, start doing it once every 2 weeks. If you're doing it every 2 weeks, do it every week. Every time, you should be taking up your involvement a notch. And this room is great. I see a lot of really energized individuals, but we need way more people from much more geographic diversity than I see in this room. So you have friends, you have family probably all over the state. We need them involved. So let me ask this, who here is committed to being a force multiplier and not just contacting them yourself, but finding a family member, a friend who also understands the importance of this and is willing to do it? So who's going to be a force multiplier? Raise your hand. We got Blue in the back? My guy. Anyone else? We got someone on their phone. We want to make sure he's on board next to you. You gonna explain?
Pay attention now.
Hand up. Perfect. On top of it.
I'm looking for my senators
My
right
man,
now.
he's already looking. Very good. See, we're on top of it. You don't even have to wait till you get home. You can do it right here. That's exactly right. So again, you gotta get your family members, get your friend, and if every person in this room contacts them once a month, and you get your family member or friend, you get 2 or 3 other people to do it, that will have a huge impact on the success of this. And I'm here because, you know, it's my job to represent communities, and because, you know, I'm kind of the one, you know, legislator who's kind of up on this stuff, you know, and hopefully that'll change pretty soon and we'll have more people that are engaged with this. But this is actually more of an existential threat for you guys in your profession, and this is much more important to you than it is to me. So I know that there's a lot of passion here, I know there's a lot of people really involved, but you've got to let that be translated to the people who you know, who you have relationships with, who are willing to advocate on your behalf. Because your voice is really important, how much more so if it's 3 or 4 or 5 other people, right? You guys all feel me?
Yeah. Really?
Feel me. Does it feel? What's the way to say feel me? Okay. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to have Stephanie email my email address around so you guys all have my information. If you anyone is not comfortable talking publicly, but you want to contact me about tips on talking to legislators or how to make things stick, or what language you want to see, or if you want to personalize your form letter or whatever, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone here early and often about stuff, or send information or meet in person. On the other hand, one tip I'll have is, I have 2 tips for you. One is request a meeting in person. Your legislators work where? Where do we work at?
Everywhere.
Well, what's the...
Madison.
Yeah, Madison, okay. Work in Madison, the capital, right? So, but you don't actually live there. Where are folks from? Do we have anyone not from Madison or Milwaukee here? You can just say Green Bay, okay. So your legislator, you have Eric Enrick in your assembly seat, or you have John Machau, or you have Stefan. So you have one of those 3 if you're in Green Bay. And they work in Madison, so they're 3, maybe 4 days a week, 5 days a week, but most of the time they're in the district, 3 or 4 days they're going to be in Green Bay. So you can email their office and say, hey, Representative Machau, if he's your guy, I want to meet with you for an hour for coffee to discuss, you know, the issue of sign language interpreting or whatever, you know, whatever, or you can talk about whatever issue you want with them. But on this one, you can say, hey, I want to talk with you about this, I want an hour, and don't let them off the hook. And remember, they're in their district more than they're in Madison. So they have time, they love meeting with people, they love going out for coffee or a beer in certain districts, depending on where you're at. But feel free to follow up with them and meet them in person, and get them, and don't get it twisted. When a politician nods their heads, they are acknowledging what you're saying, but they're not necessarily agreeing or committing. You understand what I mean by that? So if you're lobbying me, and you say, hey, this is important to me, and I'm like, oh,
Don't nod your head. That's really acknowledging that.
You're right. And so it's a cultural thing among the deaf community, but it's also a cultural thing among the politician community. But don't misunderstand, because some people will walk out of that and think, oh wow, they really heard me. They really have my side about this. And then come to find the vote went completely different than they expected. Don't get it twisted. Get a verbal acknowledgement. Are you going to support this bill for sign language interpreting licensing? If they are, great, and follow up with them and send them a thank you letter and keep following up with them so they remember how important it is. If they're not, have them explain why, and keep following up with them until they get to yes, and say, why aren't you, have you changed your mind on this? Every month you can send them a follow-up contact. Make sense?
Just like the airline attendant. I need a verbal yes.
That's right, just like the airline attendant.
Exit row.
Exactly. So that's the first tip I have, always get to a yes. Second tip I have, oh wait, no. The first tip was meet in person, second tip always get to yes. Okay, those are my 2 tips for tonight. If you have any questions, you can follow up with me directly. Thank you very much. Let's get this done. We need everyone to have their hands on the line. We're all in it together. Let's get it done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys very much.
Maybe you can catch that 42nd birthday party.
No, I'm going to catch a little time with my wife before she falls asleep. Yeah. But I'll make the birthday party. See you guys.
All right, so, are you energized?
Yes.
Yes! Ready! Oh, all that work. Oh, right there. Right there. Just right there. Oh, we're so close. Oh, then I can have my life back. All right, now we do have a little bit of time. It's 8:30. Let's see. I don't know, some of you might have to work tomorrow morning, so we can have a short Q&A. So again, if you want to ask a question, you must come up to where I am and let us know if you will be speaking or signing. All right. Jill? Oh, you have a comment? Come on up. Hello. Oh, here. Hello there. I was involved in the writing of the bill in 2010 and set up the license, the interpreter licensure bill. Once it became into law, I did a fair amount of studying, as many of you may know. And I know that we still have a long way to go. I recommend pulling up wisconsin.gov. You can find your legislator right there. You can type in AB 2200. Yep, right there. Oh, somebody in the back's got it. AB 2200. You can pull that up and give it a look, and the bill history will be right there for your eyes. And that will explain where we've come from and where we will be going. Now, I'll keep in mind, legal terminology can be complex, but it's important to introduce yourself to that and introduce it to the legislators. And have AB 220 in your hand so that they can read it. Possibly have a second one. Now, keep in mind, we aren't able to make amendments on our current bill. There is a possibility.
There's a possibility that the committee may request amendments, and it may have to come back to the floor for discussion, and we'd have to have a first read again. So once it's approved, then it would go to the Assembly, or in this case, the Senate, and we'd have to go through the process again. So it's very important to use this website to keep track of the bill. And that way you know what is happening on the floor of our government related to AB 2200. It's going to give you an idea of when you really need to be on your representative's case. Thank you.
I will have to put down a note to remind myself to add that to the website. Thank you so much, Joel. That's great information to have. Wonderful. Any other questions? Leah, please come on up. And please remember those FAQ cards that we have. We will be going through and creating responses later from the index cards. So if you feel comfortable coming up and asking your question now, you're more than welcome. If not, please just put it down on the card and we will give you an answer further on. Okay, so my question. ITPs have a certificate completion. Is that equal to a 2-year degree or not? As a hiring entity, should we pick somebody who has an associate degree or a master's degree or a 4-year degree, as long as they have an ITP certification, because an associate degree might be, some hiring entities hire under, based under an ITP certificate of completion. That's a great question. That's different. It's what employers set up for their requirements of hiring. What the law is suggesting, what we're proposing, is to have a bachelor's degree plus proof of completion of an ITP in hand. So if I get my bachelor's degree and I have an associate's degree from an ITP as a completion, I can use both of those. Does that make sense?
Either one.
Or, that's my other question.
Let's say I'm a non-traditional student, I didn't go through an ITP, but I still was able to obtain my license. So if I don't have that certificate, and I don't have a 4-year degree in interpreting, but I do have a bachelor's degree in a different discipline, and I don't have the completion of an ITP, but I have the skill set, can I test out of this licensure requirement? Or do I actually have to go back to an ITP, study, graduate, get the certificate of completion, just so I can get the license, even though I have the skills and the 4-year degree?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, if the law is passed, as it's written, it says you must have an ITP. Meaning, hold on a second, again, if you are certified prior to the passing of the law, the educational requirement will not apply to you. If you have an associate's degree prior to the law being passed, and you pass the BEI basic, maybe after the law is passed, you can get your intermediate license. Now, for the advanced license, for hearing interpreters, you must have a bachelor's degree after the law is passed.
So after the law has been passed, any new interpreters that are coming into this field must have an ITP.
Yes, you must have an ITP if you are not yet certified.
As for CEUs and the hours that are allowed for mentoring, if I am the person being mentored, can I count the hours for mentoring, or is it only the person who is doing the mentoring from the individual who has more skills that is doing the mentoring towards the mentee? Who can get CEUs? Mentor or mentees?
Oh, okay, that's a long answer. Well, I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. The board will decide what it means to be mentored or mentee. I have a feeling that they will accept either role.
The other question I can ask you directly, I don't have to do it here. Oh, okay. All right, that's fine, whatever.
Any other questions? Would anybody like to come up?
Thank you,
MJ?
It's a little bit off the topic, but historically, green interpreters do have an AA degree. Or an AAS or some other AA. How does working in mental health relate to this new law? Can we get her to, I can't see her. We've had green interpreters working in 12-step programs such as Alcoholics Anonymous and things like that. So how will it affect these green interpreters who aren't allowed to work in mental health settings but tend to work in these 12-step programs and things of that nature, historically?
Okay, the history behind that is typically Alcoholics Anonymous is a nonprofit, and they don't have the budget to provide services, and they're normally scraping to find interpreters. So if you are there as a volunteer in that role, the licensure wouldn't apply to you. Right now, I believe I heard a rumor about a Deaf Access Committee.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on, please. Is it still running? Oh, you guys had fun. Oh, you're nauseous now? Are we good? Are you good? Is everyone okay? Ooh, oh, what was I saying? Okay, so AA, Al-Anon. Right, the Deaf Access Committee. They have a budget available to pay for professional interpreters to come in and interpret for AA. So if they're being paid, then they must have a license. In relation to mental health, let's see. The board will expand on what is required for mental health and what type of settings are considered mental health. For example, intermediate cannot interpret mental health. I believe that's what you mean, right? It's what do we do and how do we go forward with that? So again, if you're volunteering, that doesn't apply. And the board will decide the environments that pertain to mental health and what they will be labeled as and what is critical and what will be covered for the advanced license. That was a great question. Any other questions? Anyone want to take a stab at it? Oh, I don't mind. We can end early if you like. Yeah? Oh, I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Okay. All right, so if you still have questions later on, please feel free to contact me. Mike? Oh, just one moment. In relation to CEUs, you can get 5 from mentoring and 5 from community volunteering. My feeling is that should be increased. I understand the goal is to benefit the deaf community, but that's my 2 cents. Okay. I agree. I had to put some limits on the hours to benefit and balance out the training because the training is the priority. And I do understand interpreters and the deaf community. You can volunteer in both of them for the deaf community and the interpreting community, and there is a benefit to that. I've been volunteering in both communities, and I feel that it is incredibly beneficial. And it's possible to be involved with the West Ridge Board, and it's possible to be involved in a variety of events, WAD events, of course, yes. But we're trying not to be too strict here We want to inspire people to be involved. For right now, the numbers are what they are. If they need to be changed, that means we're going to have to go back and remove AB 2200. So for now, we feel that the 5 hours is a good flexible number. If people want to get more, that's great. If people want more training, that's great. We want to inspire people to be involved in the communities that they serve. So inspired. Really inspired, not required. Other questions? Oh, do we have an online question?
So when talking about volunteering, is that any setting? If I'm volunteering as an interpreter, does that mean, like, if it's a family member or family event, can I volunteer there? What does this mean exactly? Again, what can that be volunteering hours? Can we clarify what volunteering really means and what settings would be acceptable? Because remember, if you're interpreting without getting paid, you don't actually need a license.
You can earn volunteer hours for the CEU requirements. So what that means, what volunteering actually looks like, it means being involved in the deaf community or interpreting community. The spirit behind that is to be involved with organizations, to provide opportunity at events, as a public benefit to all.
No, I'm not talking about earning CEUs. I don't have a license, but if I want to volunteer and interpret without pay,
That's a good question. Let me clarify. Sorry it took so long. All right. Volunteering means no pay. And if you are providing an interpreting service without pay, then you don't need a license. For example, if you're an ITP student and you're learning how to interpret, typically you're there with support. If something goes awry, your consumer should know that you don't have a license, that you are there interpreting without pay. Now, for pay, it gets sticky. So they give you your card, and that means you can be paid. So if they give you a gift card for your service, that's still compensation. If you are in that situation, it would be appropriate to decline that gift or ask them to give it to someplace else where it would be more beneficial because you are not licensed and cannot accept it. If it's a family member, that would go back to ethics and boundaries, what you can and cannot do. For payment, that's important to keep in mind for licensure.
so in any setting, I can volunteer.
The law right now, it says if you accept payment for interpreting services, it means you need to be licensed. Unless you're in one of the exempt categories, which is educational interpreters or religious interpreting, or in a religious setting versus a school setting. Again, any setting, I want to set up a good process for the future and set good precedent for interpreters in the future. So if you're out there volunteering and something goes awry, and it can happen, what does happen in the deaf community? What happens in the interpreting community too? So please keep that in the back of the mind. I know there are a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I don't need a license, I can just go out and volunteer. Okay, experience is good, mentoring is good, just please be careful. Any other questions? Margaret? Joel?
Related to ITPs, I've been getting calls from various entities where they want student interpreters to come in for church, for Girl Scout meetings, let's see what else.